Welcome to Imagination University Specials. We're very excited that you're all joining us today for this show together, where we get to discuss why it's important to reimagine education and more broadly the world around us. On the 7th of October of this year, we can't deny that this has been, I suppose, one of the most complex years in human history. So this year, AIM launched a university to fast track human development and growth, to enable a whole ecosystem of change makers to learn from each other, and most importantly, to be able to come together to build a fairer world. Our vision with Imagination University is to make higher order thinking accessible to all. So we're offering degrees for all humans all around the world from ages 5 to 105 in the most critical skills of our time: imagination, mentoring, and organizing change. We're going to open the university's virtual doors on the 1st to the 5th of February of next year. And then we'll have 5 days of rigorous training in philosophy, theory, followed by a practical implementation for every participant to do for the following 10 months. Today, you're going to be hearing from people that have enrolled in the university. And first up, we have two incredible guests, Sahil and Veniste. How are we feeling today?
Feeling good, excited.
I'm good too. It's really nice to hear from you all and get to chat with you today.
I'd love to jump straight into it and ask you both, what does imagination mean to you? Sahil, do you want to kick us off with a response?
Yeah, I think COVID's been really difficult for all of us. Sorry, are you talking about Imagination University or just imagination in general?
Imagination in general. Let's go.
In general, yeah. Well, I think imagination can kind of help ground us. We live such busy lives every day, whether we have school, university, everyday job, full-time job or something like that. And I think imagination gives us the ability to escape this reality and all essentially just become happier in general. Be content with ourselves and happy with our surroundings as well.
That's beautiful. I think it's interesting that you say imagination grounds us, because most people have, I suppose, the view that imagination is out of this world, or it's something that we have to picture. And I really like the idea of it being grounding. How about you, Veniste? What do you think of imagination?
I would add on his idea, but like for me, imagination is our everyday life as living beings, because we have to live and imagine. Without imagining, we cannot live. But in a social change ecosystem, when I think about imagination and in general, it comes to it's like a dreaming. But sometimes when you dream, it's just a dream. So something for me makes it so special is like in our social ecosystem, when we imagine, you act on your dream. So for me, imagining like in a fantasy world, in a dream or daydreaming, and then I get it done. Because in reality, sometimes our dreams, we imagine stuff like being able to escape where we are in the reality of things. And it becomes like just a dream. Also, they said, where I come from, we call it daydreaming. But being able to make this fantasy a reality for me, that's what comes to make sense when I think about imagination in real life.
Yeah, I think that's a really special analysis, and really clearly shows the different, I suppose, how different imagination is to every single person. So within the university, I'm so sorry, that is my dog barking, working from home perks.
It's okay.
And now Siri's talking to me. Within the university, we have 5 cohorts of students that we are accepting in, and they are high school students, university students, teachers, CEOs, executives, and of course, citizens. And I'd love to throw to you, Veniste, to talk about what stream you want to enroll in and why you think it's important that people from that stream are a part of Imagination University.
Look, for the past 15 or 16 years or so, I have been working with young people from different fields. But really, for me, the first thing that got me to do what I do in everyday life now is because there was a lack of opportunities. So I set up a foundation to be a platform for young people to showcase their capabilities. Back then, I got a motivation from my personal life. I grew up in a rural village where there was limited infrastructure, and because of that, there is no opportunity at all. So if you want to do something, you have to go out of your place, your hometown, go to another country. There's kind of exodus to go to find opportunity. But for me, wherever you go, I will find that there is still some challenges. I ran away from home, but I go places, I find other young people are facing the same thing. So to try to curb this challenge, we set up a foundation to be a platform where young people can showcase what we can. But then we end up growing into an organization that actually trying now to solve those challenges at the community level, leave on international level. So we wanted to be just to showcase what we can do, because back then nobody would trust you if they don't know what you can. That even I think until today, young people are not given that chance to. You like, for example, you go ask for a job, ask you, hey, give us 10 years experience, which you don't have. So when we open up this kind of opportunity platform for us to showcase what we can, for me, that's kind of the stream I'm involved in. But at the same time, solving the community challenges that our everyday life face, not just for me, but for everyone around me.
That's really something special, and we do need people such as yourself who are in these positions of power within organizations and foundations to be the people that, I suppose, can, one, understand how important imagination is and the role that plays within society and within kids, but also be the, I suppose, the catalyst for change. So thank you for putting your hand up to be part of this, and most importantly, from leading from the front. Sahil,
I want to add something on it. You said something about power, because I want to say I have any power. The power comes with the people you work with. So like being the kind of platform where everyone has a power to, because we have a power within ourselves. Once we open that doors, the things that happen, you cannot count them.
A very valid and great point to make. Yes, thank you. Sahil, I understand you have enrolled as a university student. Tell me about what being a part of the university means to you, and what kind of change do you want to create?
Yeah, following on, I think this year's been pretty difficult just in general. I think a lot of people have been struggling, and I think that's perfectly okay because it's really weird circumstances we're living in right now. But firstly, like, I think our health is compromised a lot because we're constantly stressed about things that are happening in Australia that we had were social distancing, hygiene every day, and health in general. And then on top of that, this already stressful environment is compounded by stuff like school or university or like exams and stuff like that. And I think a really big thing for me is like limited social interaction throughout this whole year. I think this is a really nice and great movement that we've got going on here, that I think as a university student, just socially interacting with others, learning, having fun, and basically having a better state of mind is, I think, really important for us to all to connect again, which is what I would say. is why I've enrolled.
And I suppose I'd love to know who has been a mentor for you, Sahil? Who has been the person or the people, multiple people that have got you to where you are today?
Yeah, I would say a bit like normal and cliche a little bit, but I would say it would be my friends and family. So friends, I think they understand what we're going through, being the same age. So whatever I'm going through, I would say normally a friend of mine is going through the same thing. So we'd normally just talk it out and mentor each other throughout the whole process. Family is, I think, important. And I think the other one is teachers from school who mentored me during school, and also tutors at university, I think, are really important. And also the people I've met through AIM are really great mentors, help you put your perspective in like a holistic perspective about the world and education in general. Helps you enjoy education even more, which I think is really good.
Yeah, when we talk about education in general and students being able to enjoy it, Veniste, why do you think it's important that we reimagine what education is around the world?
Look, everything we do, we must be able to enjoy it, have that like compassionate about it, so that we just doing it for fun and be able to maximize what we put in. In education, we have been working on it to make sure that it's available for everyone. That's number one. But then imagining education means for me that education becomes something that solves the issues that we are facing. So for me, I would say in some countries, they are in the community are trying to imagine it and innovate. But some places you go, you find it's like outdated. It's no longer compatible with our current lifestyle. So like we need to find a way that to make education just like even now, like long time ago, we did not have electricity. Now we get used to being able to work depending on electricity. So we're not gonna live like 20 years ago education with today's education. We cannot do it like that. So we need to think to make education in a way it's like current. It's dealing with the current challenges. So for me, it's really important that it becomes like a fun way to study with the current, but also at the same time solving the current challenges we are facing as a community.
Yeah, I agree. And when we talk about challenges that we face as a community and as a world and as human beings, Sahil, what do you think currently are the biggest challenges that we're facing as a human race?
Challenges, human race. I think I would say be a lack of togetherness. I think we see that we're very divided as a worldwide community sometimes. And if we focus on education in general, an example is that there's so many different levels of education in the world. We know that there's disparities between like different socioeconomic classes where people don't have the same opportunities as others. It's a lot of inequality throughout all worldwide. And I think that's a big major challenge, and we can kind of put that into most issues like hunger, poverty, and I think obviously education. So I would say that would be the big like tree, and all the branches are, and the big tree is like lack of togetherness, and we have stemming for that tree is like the branches of education and hunger and all that. So yeah, just working together as a team can help overcome these issues.
Definitely. And Veniste, you're currently in Houston, Texas, but from the beautiful land of Rwanda. What do you think are the challenges that you've got to experience in your lifetime, coming from Africa and now residing in America?
Yeah, I really agree with the Sahel is solidarity and togetherness because, and especially for me, that's one of the things I work to try to solve is inequality. The reason why I do what I do because there is inequality. If I grew up in a community where there is same thing that for example, I grow up, same thing that are here, I will not be here right now. I will be home. That if the global community can work with the care of each other, that everyone have the basic needs, things would be really, I think we'll not have the problems we're having right now. That how can we, like, for example, right now, even the things you are trying to solve right now in my organization is access to clean water. Right now with the pandemic, everybody have to wash hands. But how do you tell someone in the community where they don't even have water to wash their hands? It's unacceptable. But for me, really, if the global community can, right now, really, everybody saying global community, this and that, we are together, but we are not. Because when you see how someone, let's say in Rwanda, like, I'm so excited I was in university. My friends back in Rwanda and Kenya, they are not going to school right now. At least here I can go online and study. Some people don't even know internet exists right now in some other parts of the world. How do we say we are one continent, one world together? We are not. So for me, working to make us to be at the same level, and all of us to be on the same level, that would be the best thing everyone can work on.
Yeah, I think that was so beautifully explored and rounded up, and it's really special to be able to have that perspective. And I know lots of people, in Australia and around the world, we can't understand what people are going through because it's not a lived experience. So thank you for sharing that. I do want to wrap this up so that we can, apologies for the dings coming through in my computer if you can hear them at the other end. I do want to wrap this up by asking you both to share a sentence or two for the people watching, of some advice that you would give them in general, life advice, university advice, whatever that may be. Do you want to kick it off, Veniste?
Yeah, in my words, really, for me, I would advise everyone to be kind to one another and do the smallest thing you can. Whenever you see you can contribute to anything, as much as you can, that's the small thing that doesn't cost you anything, no matter it goes to make a bigger difference in someone's life.
Yeah, and just following on from that, mine would be, a bit of advice would be just stay grounded, focused, and committed, and always have your eyes on your ultimate goal, whatever they might be, small or big, and don't ever lose sight of what's most important to you, and also just always focus on mental health and stay happy.
Thank you both so much for taking the time to jump on the call today. We're going to go over to a video called Cogs, and then we'll jump in with our next lot of guests. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Ticking clock to cure pain. Every second means a mile. Every minute means a day. I hope you're walking in the sun. Hope you're going to be someone. always dreamed that one day I would find you on my way. Maybe one day, maybe today.
Okay, welcome back to the next lot of people we have joining us on the show today. We have Shirley, Candice, and Peter. How are we feeling? A little bit nervous to be on TV.
Oh, not really.
Feels
No,
good?
not at all.
Oh, wonderful. Naturals. All right, let's do a quick little whip around between the three of you. Shirley, if you'd like to kick us off, do you want to introduce who you are and what brings you to Imagination University? We seem to be having a little bit of technical difficulties. Peter, would you like to kick us off? What brings you to Imagination Uni?
Yeah, so what brings me to Imagination Uni? So I've decided to join Imagination Uni to gain experience from a young age that I'm hoping to take on to my future career within medicine. So yeah, I've joined to improve my leadership skills, improve my communication, all whilst doing it for a good cause, and that being AIM. And yeah, so next year, hoping to carry out it's like a university president at Wollongong. So yeah.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Candice, I see you're down as enrolling in the executive stream. What do you do for a living and how have you landed here today?
Hi, I am a cross-disciplinary model implementation expert. So what I do is I take different seminal works and I try to apply them to an opposite or paradoxical discipline so that all people can access learning or ideas in different ways.
Wow. Okay, that's quite big and large. And what is if you're talking to someone who has no idea what that means? How would you explain it really simply?
Okay. If you use the concept of mental health and cognitive behavior therapy, people often think of mental health as something that you're going into and you don't know what you're going to get out of it. So I would apply the linear version of slope to when you go into a therapy session, we're looking to achieve, right, a line that moves in a different direction. We have our variables. We've got what you already have to offer in your life, what you can add and take away that will influence your own mental health and your own happiness and watch it grow over time.
Right. That's a really cool field to be in. And how are you going to bring what you do into Imagination University, and how do the two work together?
Imagination University has an immense amount of empirical data that supports what the university is doing and supports the cognition that can be acquired if we are able to break the kind of muscle memory of the brain that the Western Hemisphere has gotten so used to in the educational process. As an educational policy writer, I have a lot of ideas on how we can influence the buy-in of the Imagination University. The data suggests that just by tweaking the smallest things in our empathy, right, versus our apathetic mindset, it allows for a greater use of our brain than we've ever had before, and learning from different societies and the combination of socioeconomical societies really will influence a more sustainable future and world for all of us.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree more. And I think that's what I love most about the university, is that it's truly open and available and free for every single person to join in, given that they have access to a tablet or internet to be able to do so. Shirley, do we have you on the call yet? No, we don't. That is all good. Peter, I'd love to know why you think it's important that we reimagine what education is.
Yeah, so the importance of reimagining education is that the current system is kind of like a one purpose fits all. And it kind of neglects that as human beings, we're all unique and individual. We all have our individual way of learning, whether that would be through visual or so on. So by reimagining education and making it sort of accustomed and customized to each individual student, I think the students would be able to get a lot more out of it. So yeah, it would ultimately also provide fairness in their learning as well.
Definitely. Candice, I'd love to pick your brain about what you think higher education is, and the importance of that being accessible for all.
Currently, the use of higher education is a stratification tool to separate the haves from the have-nots, unfortunately. I think that what the university that you are creating is to bring that back to a space where ideas can be explored, researched, and implemented in all socioeconomic cultures. I think that right now, the saddest part of is education, is the lack of diversity. As a first generation PhD student, I was very, very sad to find out what we actually do, because we weren't making or affecting change. We weren't talking to the people that we needed to talk to. We weren't being educated by the masses that we were serving. And I think that education in all forms needs to be diverse. And we need to diversify what higher ed is. And it needs to be diversified in a very quick manner, because the economic inequities are currently holding the world back from great things we've never even imagined.
Yeah, and it's the last guest that was on here said, when I asked what imagination was, that he thought imagination was grounding. And for me, that instantly just had like a little switch flip. Because when you think of imagination and you hear people talking about imagination, you think of like doing the complete opposite of truly, I suppose, entering a new universe, and rather than finding that from within. So I'd love to know, Peter, how that resonates with you and what you think imagination is.
Yeah, so imagination does ground us in the sense that it allows us to step back from reality and the chaos within reality. So our lives might be stressful, work, and so on. So it's nice to have time to take back and really think of the world in your own perspective, in a place that would make you happy. So that's what imagination is to me, being able to step back from the reality of the world and to create your own reality in your own little bubble, one that makes you happy.
And Candice, how does that resonate with you and what you think imagination is?
Imagination is the phenomenon that I'm still learning every single day how to explore and how to embody. I don't think that it is something that can be defined. I do think that it is a spectrum, an aura, an ambiance of the way your brain works around information, processes it, and comes out with varying things for the same exact idea for every other person. I also think that it is less of a individual happiness and more of a communal humanitarianistic approach. When you start to imagine, you start to think about the things that are outside of our norm, and it doesn't exactly ground me. It kind of is a daydream or a lift, and all the things that if you could do, if you would, if this was here, if utopia was in place, I would do this. You know, I don't think that imagination leads me to a place where I'm happy. It's the place where all are happy and we're able to enjoy the happiness of others and learn.
That's beautiful. And I love the concept of it not being a singular imagination makes me happy, but it's for all, and it's the community that creates when we all can truly imagine and reimagine together. Okay, I'm going to switch up the questioning a little bit. I'd love to know, Peter, when was the first time you remember as a kid truly imagining what could be possible, and what was it?
My first time imagining. It's probably not my first time, but it's one that stands out. I was probably like 5 years old. Recently, I was begging for a microscope, and I got one. So I remember they had like little sheep balls and stuff, and I used to like pick ants and like cut them up. So like I used to like imagine like little weird things I'd find underneath the microscope and stuff like that. But yeah, that's like one of the earliest memories I can think about imagination. But I'd also, like when I was young, I was kind of like beginning years from kindergarten to like say year 2, I'd always be imagining weird scenarios. I'd find myself in class just sitting down and just daydreaming about all these weird sorts of things. But yeah.
How often did those daydreams get you into trouble?
Quite a lot. But yeah, so I didn't really speak English much around that time, so I didn't even know I was in trouble. So
the way that you could get away with it.
yeah.
Candice, what's one of your most recent times where you've had to use imagination to problem solve?
I didn't believe in imagination until Imagination University. I grew up in a very regimented society. There were rules, and my reading was already set in stone before I was even out of the womb. I had no space to express my thoughts, what I felt, or what I wanted to be. When I started to explore this concept of imagination, I went to my mother and I said, what did I say I wanted to be when I grew up? You know, you never said anything. The teachers used to talk about it all the time. You never would play dress up. You thought it was against the rules because you were pretending to be someone else. And so I have come up with a kind of a imagination therapy workbook that I'm working with my psychiatrist and therapist in to truly understand what imagination is and how I have experienced it. And my therapist and I have come up with the labeling of ADHD and the way that my brain produces 17 different outputs for one input, then cannot compartmentalize, was seen as a negative thing. But really, if you look at it in the sense of a child, right, and you put in $1 and you get out 17 different toys, that's a lot of brain processing going on. That's a lot of imagination. And that means that imagination looks a lot of different ways. And I personally really want to be able to show the variety of ways that imagination can take place within and every individual, because it might not look the same, or it might not feel the same, or it might not be glittery or colorful. But when you dig deeper into the surface, you find that imagination has been happening in my entire life, but it was suppressed by the concept that too many ideas was not a good idea. So I would say that this project is the last thing that I had to use imagination to conceive as why this would be something that I should invest my time in, until I got to the empirical data. And the data is strong, the data is there, and the data says that we need this badly. And the right people need to be in charge of making sure that our communities, our economic communities are more combined, or we won't sustain as a people.
Wow, thank you so much for being open and for sharing that. And from I didn't understand coming into this call that I know people view imagination differently, but I found it really, I suppose, eye-opening to hear that it wasn't something that you'd really experienced much growing up. And, you know, my earliest memories of me being imaginative are, you know, playing dress ups and pretending to be other characters. So thank you so much for sharing that with us today. We are going to go to a video now called Dreams, which I'd love for you two to hang around and to watch. A couple years ago, our CEO and founder and our deputy CEO went around to some different schools in Australia and Africa and interviewed kids on what dreams mean to them. So we're going to watch that video now, and then we'll welcome the next lot of guests to come on.
We want to try and work out, where do dreams come from? So what do you think? Where do dreams come from?
From the dream time.
What are dreams?
Comes from your imagination.
What is that?
It's like a world of things that you think of.
What do you guys dream about?
Riding a unicorn and a turtle on its back.
A turtle on the back of the unicorn, or the turtle and the unicorn next to each other with you sort of one leg on each?
Next to each other, I'd say.
Next to each other.
Who's powering the movement?
A cheetah.
What do you dream about?
Being rich.
Echiloto chichi.
I want to know, what's a dream?
A train is something that runs on the rails, and it takes people from Brooklyn to the Bronx, or from Queens to Brooklyn.
Who makes dreams?
Us.
Your brain? I reckon dreams are clouds like are in your head, and like they picture all the stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do actually.
I think I go to sleep and my bed takes me to this stuff.
your bed takes you?
Yeah, it kind of flies and takes me to these places when I sometimes have dreams.
What is your dream? Do you have a dream?
I dreamed about dinosaurs.
You can dream about like you're in a forest or a jungle.
I have dreams when I'm a green guy who can turn into animals.
Who invented dreams?
Martin Luther King.
When do you reckon the first ever dream was ever had?
1981.
So since 1981, when the first dream was had, have all people since that moment been able to dream?
No.
Why do you think no?
Sometimes people need to see stuff and hear stuff to dream. Or some people don't because they can just stay up and don't go to sleep. Yeah, I reckon every kid has a dream. But sometimes you have a scary dream, like on Halloween you might have a scary dream.
And those bad dreams are so, like scary. Sometimes you dream about when you are in a scary hotel where there's vampires and zombies and skeletons that are still alive.
How much do you think dreams cost to make?
$10.
$10?
That's a well-priced dream.
What do you think, Bob?
The amount that you have to pay the hospital to get yourself out of your mom's belly.
What is psychology?
Psychology. We don't know the word that we call psychology. And that word is confusing us. We don't know. Psychology. Psychology.
Why do you think we use imaginations? Why as human beings, why do we have an imagination?
You can go off into far places. I don't know. It's hard. Really hard.
Why is it hard?
It's just hard.
Well, that might be our time.
All right, welcome back to our next lot of guests. We have Dom Dom, Kevin, and Janae. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Do you take yourself? Am I?
Hi, no, it's Janie, but
Janie.
anything goes. It's all fine.
No, Janie's wonderful. Thank you very much for being here today. Let's start with you, Janie. What does imagination mean to you after watching that video?
That was a really great video, first of all. Thanks so much for sharing it to us today. I think for me, imagination is about creating a mental picture of something. So just something that will help shape your reality, what you want from your future. And what I really love about imagination is that it's something that's yours, it's in here, it's in your heart as well, and it's something that will always be yours. No one can steal it from you, no one can take it from you. But you can still use that imagination to help other people, help share with the world and shape the world around you. So I think that's what I love about imagination the most.
And Kevin, why do you think it's important that we reimagine the world that we're currently in to be able to create a fairer world and a fairer future for all?
I think imagination is incredibly important in the world, but changing the world, but changing us as well. I think it is in many levels, because I think, as Janie said, it's really yours and it's your opportunity to change the world. And the world, as we know it, has many inefficiencies. The cogs that turn the world are no longer the right fit for a lot of things. So having the opportunity to imagine, to think outside the box, to innovate, is incredibly important for us to progress through the world.
Now, Dom Dom, you keep turning up over and over again in this AIM world that we exist in. And so I want to know, what is it about what we do here at AIM and how we use our imagination that just keeps you so eager and excited to be involved?
Hey, so good to see you, Ryan. For me, it's always been, for some reason, Jack and all the crew, it's because of imagination that we're able to do what we do, and you give me the freedom to keep doing what I want to do with my creativity. So that's why it's just a joy being here. I love that whole segment with Benny and Jay with all the kids, because it just kills me. I can't stop laughing every time I see it, because that's what this is why I love AIM. We nurture exactly that and we protect it. So that's what it's about for me.
Definitely. That is by far, I think, one of my favorite videos that we have, because there's something about the innocence of kids and their minds that just has the ability to blow our minds and how they think. Kevin, what do you think is important for us all to know and to go into Imagination University with, in the sense, so that question was very confused as I tried to make sense of that in my own head. Why do you think it's important that we enter the space of Imagination University with, you know, as Dom just said, with the opportunity and the freedom to be able to create, but most importantly to share?
I think to enter anything, it's important to be humble, to have an open mind, because you're here to learn. If you already know the knowledge, there's no point of enrolling in anything, especially something like Imagination University. And I think it's only then can you be receptive to all the knowledge and all the experiences that you'll be exposed to from different people, from the course material, and then allow that to ferment in your brain and then take you to weird and wonderful places throughout the university. And then you'll be able to create that change that has never been created before, or has been stopped by barriers, restricted by, if you don't have the freedom to think, you're restricted by the old ways. And if that's the case, in this particular circumstance, we need to be able to innovate. We need to be able to recombine different knowledge concepts into something that we can create that's new, that will really help our society.
Yeah, I love the idea of the fact that it's about everyone's knowledge experience and most importantly the different people coming together. Janie, I'd love to know, what's been a moment in your life where you've had a mentor that has changed the way that you think or the way that you do and you act?
I guess I've been quite lucky having so many mentors at different parts of my life. And they've all come about when I've needed to make a change in the direction I was going in. So they've helped me see that it's time to change the direction, time to change what I want to pursue in my life, and that there's a reason why that's okay. I don't have to just follow a dream that I had before, but it's okay to change that dream because I see the world slightly differently. So that's been really great for me, I think. And I've been so lucky to have so many that helped me see that.
And what do you think are the current challenges we're facing in the world that are inhibiting us from being able to move together to create this change?
I think the biggest thing is how we have mistaken what imagination actually means. For instance, I still can't comprehend why NASA and we have all these scientists that want to fly to the moon and mess with it when the moon controls our tides, and yet we can't solve homelessness or how we create food. I just don't understand why we want to leave the planet so quickly, or we have all this genius who have imagination, but they're all stuck in artificial intelligence and things that makes no sense to me, and how it's going to help us as a community.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I don't think I've ever honestly thought of that before. Like the people that have the smarts and the wits to go to new planets to discover whatever is up there when they could be discovering, you know, here on Earth. That's a really interesting way of looking at that. Kevin, I'd love to know, if we're bouncing straight off of Dom's response there, do you think there is, do you think, like, what's my words for it? Do you reckon imagination exists in other life that isn't humans? Like, where are the limits of imagination?
I think imagination inherently is limitless. I think imagination is really about what you have and how you can work with that to create new things. So as long as, it doesn't even have to be knowledge or consciousness, as long as I guess communication, they can think in what we define as that. That imagination can exist anywhere. It can exist in any person, it can exist in any planet. It really depends on, I guess, your imagination. You know, if you have the courage and you have the open-mindedness to be able to challenge the norms, to be able to I guess, step outside the box and disagree with people, then you can imagine. So I do think imagination, it can exist in any form, anywhere.
Yeah, we've had some really great discussions on imagination in this episode today that I've never had before. That's made me, I think, go away and start to reimagine what imagination is, and most importantly, how I talk about it in these kinds of forums and with kids, and maybe just the way that I now see it, I think has changed just from the conversations I've had with really cool people on the show today. I'm going to introduce another really cool person, Virginia. If you're listening and you're on the line, I'd love for you to take yourself off mute, turn your camera on, and give us a hello. How are you feeling today?
Oh, good. How are you? Well, nervous, but you know.
Yeah,
how's it going?
I'm doing very well. I'm so excited that we've been able to bring you onto this one. Virginia, in this panel with us, we've got Dom, Kevin, and Janae. And I suppose I want to throw to you straight up to ask you, out of everything you've heard us talking about in this last 10 minutes or so, what do you think is the core reason that we should all use imagination in our day-to-day lives?
Oh, I've just been sitting here thinking, like, all of these examples as to why it's so important. I think I've been really lucky, for some people who don't have a clue as to who I am. I've been lucky to work in a lot of production and marketing and advertising here in the States. And so I get to see a lot of just kind of thoughts on like who people are and general assumptions and creating content and kind of seeing, it's part of my role to see through other people's eyes, right? And put myself in the shoes of someone else who might be the consumer or a different audience. And just in the process of that, it just rings so true to me that we just need more and more different people to even look at something as simple as a video that goes out. Because there have been so many instances where it's like, it might look really great to everyone here, say we're all on the team and we're all like, yeah, that looks awesome. Someone else who's come in and it's just a slight different way of looking at the situation or a slight different background. And they react so much differently to it. And it can be really positive or it can be really negative. But I think that's been where I've been like, oh my gosh, like imagine if this person hadn't walked past and seen this, right? At like exact right time. Or if I'd been kicked off, like one of the examples is if this team that had been creating a content for women was all male, right? Which happens a lot. I almost didn't go on the shoot in this edit, and this killer piece that I thought was, you know, made everything almost got cut because it was all guys looking at this thing. And so I guess that's really a simplification of it, but I really see it as like, we need to have all this imagination going so that we can all, like, it's kind of like a prism, right? Like, so we can kind of turn it and see all these different things, and we just never know how it's going to sparkle, right, when we turn it. So that's just, I'm very excited about imagination.
Yeah, I love the imagery of it being a prison, and it's like, you know, does it ever truly get unlocked, or, you know, do we ever fully release it, or does it need to stay contained in order for us to function? Or yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah. And I think some of that intrigue of like not knowing what imagination is too is kind of part of the magic in some sense of it. Like you just have to keep dreaming and not necessarily put a label on it all the time.
Definitely. It's slightly off topic, but when the filming for that Dreams video happened that you all saw just before, one of the questions, and I think it's going to get cut into another video, but one of the questions that they were asking the kids is like, what is a mortgage? What is finance? And the kids were coming up with the funniest responses of like, the mortgage was a monster that chases you down the street and it was green, and like, and so it was truly amazing to watch, you know, the content of what the kids thought all of these really serious things were in the world. And I think there's something really special, I said it before, about that unknown of, you know, when do we truly know and understand what things are? And it's people that create the concepts that then have the answers for it. So on that, I would love to know what higher education what it would mean to make higher education accessible in workplaces and in university settings, and how do we make that accessible for people? Dom, would you like to kick us off?
I think the most important thing is what I've learned. There's this big thing on university and this label that it gives you all the answers, or you go there and you come out like a molded little thing of what you want to be. When in actual fact, all it does is it teaches you what 90% of us already know how to do, which is just survive and life skills and how to adapt. So I think just breaking that barrier alone and showing that you don't have to pay for that knowledge, that it's already around you, but also just giving you the resources is what university does. I think that's what's most important.
And Kevin, why do you think it's important that people of all ages, if we're talking from 5-year-olds to 105-year-olds, are able to access that higher education and the higher order thinking that's associated with that?
I think we typically associate, higher order thinking with people who are mature, who are older, and have all those life experiences to back it up. However, as we saw in the previous slot, that people be having these high order cognitive processes at a really young age. And it's important for them to give them the space and the tools age appropriate for them to discover that. Otherwise, we, in some shape or form, suppressing that ability for them to think creatively, to think deeply, and stopping that process will, I guess, hinder them to discover that further. So we're stopping, you can only do higher education as a university student, and therefore you can only start that process at 21 formally. But if you discovered that whole other 20 years, I think the possibilities and the benefits will really be amazing if we give those opportunities and make it more accessible to everybody of all ages.
And Virginia, why do you think we need to reimagine what those opportunities are? And most importantly, then how do we teach kids to reimagine and to, I suppose, grow up in this world when we don't know what the world is that they're entering?
That is a really tough one. I think if I rewind just a little bit, something that you said a little bit earlier, I think rings true for this. And I was lucky in that both my parents were very high proponents of university education. So it was kind of a given that I would do that. And yet I think they gave me kind of the license to see it not as I'm going there to get specific knowledge to get a job. But my dad's words were, you're going to go to university to learn how to think. And so I think that for me was kind of a really good unlock, where it was more of like, oh, I get to spend these few years like questioning and like digging into this book and like chasing the references here and there, and just kind of like being able to immerse myself in, I think what you just said, Dom, the resources that those institutions have. So I think that was quite freeing, I think, just from my personal experience. And I think maybe that's something that we could bring as an opportunity to others, and just say that it's not to get a job, it's not to do anything, it's because you want to work on yourself, right? And you want to be able to like create whatever we want to create. We just want to not be restricted. And so I think that would be something really great to be able to share.
Very cool. And Janie, what is a piece of advice you'd like to give to anyone out in the world now to round out this segment of Imagination TV University Specials?
I think it just goes back to what I was saying earlier, just be free to change things up and don't stick to one path. If you think that it's not right for you, feel free to change your course a little bit. Take the scenic route around, because you'll see so many more beautiful things along the way, and just be free to allow yourself to do that. I think that's the best advice I could give from what I've done so far.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for taking the time to jump on today and to have a yarn about imagination and the future that we can all create as a community together. We're going to jump over to a video now from Jack, and then that will round us out for today's episode.
Thank you.
Hello everybody and welcome back to IMAGI-NATION TV. We've had an amazing break as we've been working out how we can do our best to organise change around the world, how we can look to build bridges, how we can look to shift the economic models from cash exchanges, which has seen so many people missing out, to seeing how we can exchange knowledge and kindness and support each other in different ways to hopefully build more of a fairer world together. We're looking today at imagination, at mentoring, at building bridges and bringing this group together so we can organise change. And the framework that we're looking to bring together the whole world under is IMAGI-NATION University. You can head to aimmentoring.com and put in your expressions of interest now. If you're a school student looking to create change, if perhaps you've been outside the margins and you've been in a situation where you feel like the world doesn't see you, well, we see you and we see your worth and your value. And we want to give you a stage to show the world that you're not a problem to be fixed, but you're the solution. So there's plenty of entrepreneurship opportunities for school students from around the world. For university students, you get to get out and do your apprenticeship in organising change. Obama in his 20s, Jacinta Ardern in her 20s, they went out and they worked on the ground and worked out how to move people, how to hustle them and follow them up to make sure they can move from today to tomorrow so we can actually create tangible change. And this job, as a university student, you get to be an imagination president. You get to get 100 of your friends and go down and mentor 100 high school kids and build that bridge between those that are potentially going to have power in the future and those who are at risk of being left behind. For teachers, you get to bring imagination into the classroom and light up those classrooms so we don't end up with so many kids outside the margins feeling like the mainstream system doesn't see them. Let's flex the model and work within the walls of what's already there and see what we can bring to life. And for executives, you'll have the chance to level the playing field. You get to engage in a project for change for 10 months and let's see what we can do. And hopefully then all of these schools that are sitting there without guides or mentors from outside in the community suddenly have someone knocking on the door and we get to get out of our own little bubbles. And finally, for citizens, you'll have an opportunity to bring about your own project for change. So today we open applications, they'll be open for the next 2.5 months, and then February 1 next year, we'll open IMAGI-NATION University to go out and build that fairer world that we're working towards. And here's our launch film that we've created for this very special moment.
We know what happened in 2020. So let's imagine 2021.
Let's imagine
what a free and just world looks like. Let's imagine
a university free for all,
with no paywalls to higher order thinking for anyone, anywhere.
Let's imagine
a social network for good.
A bridge for us to come together and redesign the way the world works.
Let's imagine what happens when we tell the kids at the back of the class,
we see you.
There is a generation of kids just like you.
Let's imagine school students, university students,
teachers, executives, citizens
coming together to work on a curriculum designed for a future that we hope to build. Now, imagine.
It's happening right here. And you're invited.
Welcome to IMAGI-NATION University, brought to you by AIM, the Imagination Factory.
Applications are open now.
Thank you all so much for joining us on the first episode of IMAGI-NATION University Specials. We're incredibly excited to be able to do this together, to most importantly talk about why we should be reimagining education and more broadly the world around us. We'll be back tomorrow and every day this week to meet the people that are going to be a part of IMAGI-NATION University to create change for us all. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.